How do you permeate your culture and how do you help them understand what it is? How do you help them see the vision and believe in things that are not yet there like you do and work for it? These are a little challenging. So bringing them in, having that conversation, letting them go, and then bringing them in when there's a discussion required, I think it's all good.
Thank you to our sponsors of the Inside Story Hunters podcast. A big shout out to Chad Hill of Term Provider, home of Big Lou, Tiffany Wondros, CNR Services, Michael Valletta of Quick Cuts Media. Don't forget to subscribe at youtube.com, where you can follow our weekly episodes and get an automatic link to listen to our next guest sharing a part of their incredible inside story. So subscribe or listen on any podcast channel to your Inside Story Hunters podcast. Thanks for following us. Thanks for supporting us. Well, hello, insiders. It's Laurie with the story, getting ready to help Sashank Purighalla share his inside story. What was fascinating to me and why I'm so passionate about walking alongside Sashank and his team is the fact that he is also a virtual business owner. He would claim to be a business developer, but we see it from a different perspective. Yet at the same time, I think we're both passionate, coming from a place of when you see problems, when you see time and money being wasted, and you know that people can be catapulted in a direction for growth, improvement, efficiencies, and the ability to be the best. Best individual, best team, best company, most profitable, most successful, most on target to meet their initiatives, as well as to achieve great goals, then we're really speaking the same language. Hello, Sashank. Thank you for being here. Insiders, this is going to be an incredible story because Sashank is a man who does not like to brag on himself, but I told him that the entire interview, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that he tells you how amazing he is. So Sashank, can we start with your inside story? The fact that today we couldn't be together because you're in India. And you're with your virtual team, which is not where you really get to spend a lot of your time. So what's it like to be back in India? You're with your family, you're with your virtual team. Take us through your inside story of what that world looks like today, back home, even though your home is your business BOS Framework is based in Nashville, Tennessee, where we've had the pleasure to meet. So, but tell us about India.
Yeah. Firstly, thank you for having me over. And those that know me very well will totally disagree with me not bragging about myself. So be a little careful. I am back in India for a few weeks after about 2 years of not being here, thanks to the pandemic. And my family lives here. I've got a very large team that's here. They're spread across 22 cities thanks to the pandemic. And we're finally herding all these cats, bringing them all into one office. And it's been an incredible past couple of weeks of being here, really enjoying it. And what's absolutely blown me away is the incredible progress that the specific city we are in, Hyderabad in India, has made in the past 2, maybe 3 years that I've not been here. The same roads and streets that I used to drive on comfortably, knowing full and well exactly what's where, seem totally new because of the number of buildings that have come in. It's just been incredible. So yeah.
Didn't you say Google? I mean, there's some big names that are in town, right?
Yeah, we're next. Where I'm sitting, I'm probably the next building from here is Google. I can actually peep out, and maybe there's a building in my way, but there's Microsoft not too far from here. I think in a 3-kilometer perimeter from where I'm sitting, some of the biggest names that we all know in technology. Every one of them has an office here, and I don't quote me on this, but I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if there are less than 500,000 engineers that are employed just in this one city, because just such a sprawling landscape of technology and growth. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, what a great segue into the fact of technology growth, unbelievable. But I want to go right to cloud. Let's talk about the cloud, because I was blown away when you started to describe to me your passion of being able to help people, the user and the outcome. Let me just say that, and for you to elaborate, because I think that's such an incredible part about what makes BOS Framework stand out, because you're competing against so many technologists. And I'd love for you to elaborate on that, please.
The cloud is truly that fuzzy place for most of us, right? I mean, people say with a lot of pride, and it's become one of these buzzwords that everybody wants to use, cloud, DevOps. And very few people really understand what goes into it. And I've been surprised recently by some of the more senior technologists talking about the cloud and DevOps in certain terms, which is actually inaccurate. And that goes on to tell you what businesses are building based on and the kind of expense that they are going through to just be in the cloud, because the lack of information, the complexity, the number of things that go into building something that is reliable, that's maintainable, that is resilient, that's compliant, and the lack of resources. It's become a very, very, very complex overall landscape.
You talked about the US government, some of the biggest businesses, having the resources, right? When everything you're describing. But when you're talking about the medium to even large organizations, it's still a totally different ballgame.
It is. It totally is. And everybody wants to be in the cloud. Everybody is moving to the cloud. There are very large initiatives right up at the board level where CIOs and CTOs are charged with this responsibility of taking them into the future, i.e. the cloud. But what exactly is that? How do you build it? What does it cost? These are questions that frankly, are pretty mind-boggling to most people. And the responsibility then again falls back on technologists. Today, Laurie, I see about over 150 job openings in the space of CloudOps, DevOps, and security implementations in cyberspace on LinkedIn alone. And my guess is there's probably less than half the number of people that are actually qualified that can fill those jobs. That goes on to tell you the demand for those types of initiatives and that kind of a movement, and the sheer lack of response from the technology community to meet that kind of a demand. And the reason is the complexity. If it's not that complex, if it were not that complex, probably an average engineer would be able to learn and would be able to implement. A lot of people are learning on the job, but when you learn on the job, what's happening is, and I've said this many times in the past, there's been over a 600% increase in the number of tools to address this particular problem in the world of DevOps and CloudOps over the past 5 years. And in the exact same time frame, there's been over a 600% increase in the number of cyber breaches and a similar increase in maintenance spend. That's a very strange dichotomy.
I mean, think about the percentage that you're talking about. You didn't say 6%. You didn't say 60%. 600% in breaches and yes.
I'll tell you, just when somebody says, I want to be in AWS is over 200 functions. And there are probably very few people that actually know what those functions are and can actually tell you accurately how many categories of functions there are and capabilities that just AWS offers or Azure offers. So now you're depending on engineers that are themselves figuring out and they're trying to learn on the job. And what happens when you learn on the job? They're, number one, as a business owner, you're spending money on somebody else experimenting. So you're basically accepting the fact that you're a guinea pig and you're proud of it. And then you have a suboptimal implementation. You're being basically you're forced into decisions, you're forced into licenses that you have no clue about, because this person decides that he's going to do it or she's going to do it a certain way because they're learning on the job. And one sure thing about every engineer is no engineer that I've known in the past 22 years of me being in this career, I've seen do the same thing 2 times in the same way. It's rediscovery every single time.
Which is expensive and a waste of time. That's what you said, right? And BOS Framework, 70% leapfrogging over that is because you think like a business owner when you're approaching things as a technologist. Would that be fair to say?
Right. So yeah. Now the one thing about the cloud or anything in technology for the most part is nobody has really published like a manual that says here's how you build something in the cloud, right? I mean, there are 100 ways of building something, and that differs based on the tech stack, based on the application, based on a plethora of variables. So what we have done is there is a certain approach that is generally applicable that can be applied in, like you said, 70% of those cases. So what we've done with BOS is we've brought in all of those best practices and a certain approach that is tried and tested over many implementations, experience that we have gained over dozens of engagements that we have done with small and large companies, and said, okay, here are a set of things that we could be doing. And we brought that together into a platform. And now that platform is very easily implemented with some of our experts working together. So we pair our experts with that platform, and we go and help companies leapfrog a large portion of what most people would start from scratch doing. And because we've built these on best practices, what we're able to guarantee is a certain level of maintainability. And I speak about maintainability with a lot of care, because most people that have done software, that whether you've developed software or whether you have been a business owner that has had a team build software for you, knows that 70% of the total expense goes into maintenance. And for most developers, maintenance is an afterthought. In fact, they don't even think about it. They're just thinking about, how do I get this up and running? Getting it up and running is not that hard. You can do that. Maintenance, on the other hand, and being able to preempt some of those maintenance challenges and the expenses that go with it is difficult. So what we've done with BOS is we made sure that those maintenance elements, the resilience elements, which is extremely important in today's world of cyber breaches and cyber crime, and the governance and the compliance elements, which are required by so many regulatory authorities, HIPAA, SOC 2, ISO, PCI, and the like. We baked all of those things into our solution. So right from the get-go, you start with all the right things. And you don't have to worry about maintaining and doing it all. So you reduce your technical debt, you reduce your spend. When you don't have technical debt, it's not like you're paying all of that over time together with interest, which most people are. So BOS helps you eliminate a lot of those problems that most people generally have. Yeah.
Most of your clients, I believe, are on a single flat subscription. Is that correct? I mean, that you have a unique approach to of enabling people to utilize your services by making it really a very simple approach to how they pay for it. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah. So if you generally understand how not just cloud, but software engineering is done, somebody writes some requirements and then you assemble a team of people, and those people go to the drawing board. Then they say, this is how I want to build it. And they start building it from scratch. And there's a certain quantum of work that goes into it. Generally, all of these projects are pretty top heavy in the sense that they spend a lot of money to do that. And it's not uncommon for those bills to be pretty big, right? Those amounts to be pretty big. And then you still have to have maintenance, because I've said this often, that software, anything in technology is like a loaf of bread. It goes bad if it's not maintained. So you've got to have people maintaining it all the time. So you've got to have some maintenance expenses. And then there are so many other expenses that go in the back end. So there's a lot of unpredictability. And the worst thing for most business owners is unpredictability. So I don't know, and I'm suddenly slapped with a $150,000 bill because something went wrong and nobody told me, nobody was aware of it, and now I have to deal with that. So what we've done is to eliminate all of those unpredictability, uncertainties, and those unpredictable costs. We brought all of this into a single subscription model where we get into a long-term engagement with a customer, 2-year contract, and then we set it up for them, we maintain it for them, and through it all, we ensure that it's maintainable, it's resilient, it is compliant, and reduce the overall threshold for the number of resources that are required. So they don't have to go and start looking for DevOps and CloudOps resources. And how many companies really sell DevOps and CloudOps as part of their offering? Very, very few, right? Mm-hmm. Most of them are focused on end users experience, while CloudOps is necessary for the product to work. So it's technically critical. Business-wise, it adds very, very little value. So why do you want to invest a lot of time and money in that? So we offload all of them from them with that single subscription sort of a model.
Take us back. How did BOS Framework come to be? It's not your first company. And so that this was birthed for a reason. And I'm assuming that it's based on everything that you're articulating and describing, I would assume from painful experiences. So take me back. How did BOS Framework come to be?
So here's my story. Okay.
And you're sticking to it.
Yeah. So I've been doing technology for a very long time, Laurie, for 22 years now, over 22 years. I am a mechanical engineer by training, and I came to the US in '99 after finishing my mechanical engineering in India. And then I came in for my master's in robotics. And then when I got into robotics, somebody told me, well, computer science is better. So long story short, I moved to computer science. But the one thing that I found was computer science did not have the discipline that mechanical engineering had. There was predictability in mechanical engineering. So for example, if a connecting rod were to be designed by somebody that is sitting in Nigeria, in Nicaragua, and let's say New Zealand, and these three guys would have never spoken to one another, did not know each other's existence, they're probably very, very similar designs would come out of all those three people. Software, on the other hand, it's rediscovery every single time. So over these years, I worked with various companies. I wanted to take retirement from corporate America and started my own company in 2009, I think. And I started 5Y, which is the other company that I have in India and then in the US as well. And we did about 200 projects around the world as part of that company. And most of these strategically were product development done for regulated companies around the world. As we were doing that, we saw that we were doing the same thing over and over again, and it was rediscovering and rebuilding it. So I started questioning, why are we doing this? Can we not build a framework that helps us, not have to do this repeat work? So BOS Framework started there many years back as an internal tool that we wanted to have to become more efficient and more effective in what we were delivering. During that period, we started working with a fairly large clinical research organization, and they had a very big project. And that project, my friend, he asked me, Sashank, can you build this project for me? And he said that the internal estimates that he got from his team was about 1,800 man-months of effort. And we said, okay, we'll do it. And we employed the then version of BOS, and we got it done in less than 800 man-months, because about 1,000 man-months was this repeat work that we just employed BOS to offset. When that happened, I was very excited. I said, this deserves to be its own company. And
why not? Because you're a serial entrepreneur and said, let's just form a company, right?
And then that's when I moved to Nashville. I was looking for a tier 2 city in the US. So I went to Austin, I went to Denver, I went to Raleigh, even Atlanta, although it's not a tier 2 city, then to Nashville. And Nashville seemed like that well-rounded, calm, easygoing city where there's adequate talent. Vanderbilt is a great university. So I said, why not stay in Nashville? So that's how BOS became its own company. Then, lucky for me, we found a Silicon Valley VC that took interest, and he said, I'm going to invest a couple of $1 million in this. So we took that investment, and BOS became a thing.
Is BOS your final chapter? Doing this for the rest of your life? I mean, growing it, developing it, you're super successful now. I mean, you've worked on amazing projects in defense, the military, in just large environments. But is this it?
It could be it.
So, great answer. That is a serial entrepreneur. It's a disease, I'm telling you. So go ahead.
I'll tell you, just today, I was speaking to one of my teammates, and he was telling me, Shank, you've been always thinking about this idea. And then he threw about 2 or 3 ideas that I've spoken to him many times in the past about. And I told him it's absolutely critical that we stay hyper-focused on what we're doing, because what we're doing has a global connotation to it. It has global application. And if we are successful, we can transform the way how cloud engineering is approached. And the kind of money companies spend, we can save them millions of dollars in doing what, with taking the alternative to BOS. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So if it grows into that kind of a company, then I do see BOS being something that I would do for the rest of my life. Doesn't mean that that would be the only thing. I do have many other ideas, Laurie. I love building stuff. I've always considered myself an engineer, a builder, and I love doing it. And I love doing it with people that I really enjoy working with. So I've been very blessed to have a team that I think has been patient with me for the past dozen years now. So I do believe that we'll do a few more things after this, together with this maybe.
You realize that so many people in the world have stepped into the virtual environment because they had to. Talk through the challenges, because I think that's where the education begins. People used to think, owning a virtual company, that must be so cool. How neat. So, easy. You can, just do whatever you want to do because you work virtually. But there's such a different reality when you understand what that takes. We were talking about in the beginning, herding cats, gathering people back together, how COVID stood in the way. Well, if it's a virtual team and a virtual company, why should where you work matter? Let's talk about that. Your experience of growing a multi-million-dollar organization with a virtual team. Has it been easy?
One of my advisors recently, not recently, but about a year or so back said, Sashank, I don't envy anybody that's having to manage virtual teams during the pandemic. And he's so right. It's been a very, very big challenge. Today, I was sharing with one of my project managers. She was telling me how we just back in the office 2 weeks and we're working together. Not all of us, it's just a handful of us right now. And we have several others that'll be joining us. We're taking it very slow. But she was telling me for the past 2 years, she said, I don't know why, but I was feeling frustrated, angry at something that I couldn't describe, and I was feeling depressed. And now suddenly I understand exactly why I felt that way for the past 2 years. This is a real emotion I think most of us have experienced during the pandemic of virtual work. We're isolated. You feel like that caged animal. You're in that, and then you're in front of a camera, and then you have to smile and tell everybody how wonderful things are, and then pretend like everything is fine, and you shut down the camera, and you're again like, geez, I just wish I could meet with somebody, right? So it's been a very difficult thing at a personal level for me, for everybody in the team, and that tells on the overall productivity and on the culture. As much as individual productivity went up, as much as people have always been available, there's been an impact in the sense that for most companies such as ours, it's important that the group comes together. We have those discussions, those whiteboarding sessions. You can never offset personal interaction in person where people share the same space, breathe the same air, and see each other in 3D rather than just as a 2D image on a screen. So it's been challenging, and coordinating schedules. It's also true that not everybody has been sincere. I heard somebody say to me recently in a meetup that he heard a younger girl, she's apparently working for a multinational corporation, share with another friend, and this guy was eavesdropping as he was sitting there. She was telling her how she works only 4 hours a week. And she's basically clocking in, pretending like there's something. She's sending some report at the end of the week. So there have been those types of things as well. So it's not been easy. And it's not been easy to guarantee the level of service that you want to. Certain expenses have gone up as much as the need for office and those types of things have come down. So it has been difficult. I'm actually glad to be having what I would consider a hybrid environment. So I don't think I'm going to force everybody to come back to the office, although that is highly desirable because I'm still a conventional traditionalist at some level. But just being able to call them back into the office, having a place where we could talk as needed, not be worried if we are going to be carrying some disease and passing it over to somebody else. All of those are very positive things.
Incredible. I thank you for elaborating on that. And I feel what you're saying because it's been kind of healing to listen to people understand it's difficult to take away the human connection. And a part of the Inside Story Hunters podcast is to capitalize on helping others unveil that important part of like who you are and enabling you to be transparent, vulnerable, and present yourself in however you wish to tell your story. But virtually, the disconnect can be unhealthy. There's so many awesome benefits to it, right? Because you have a team in India and have a company in Nashville, Tennessee, and all the things combined. And I think hybrid is the most beautiful word. Being able to have, it's like work-life balance. It's called life balance. It's all the same. Work is just, right? I mean, it is something I just am so passionate to make sure that people, like, are you moving in the direction of balancing your life? Then you don't have to tell me about how you balance your work life and your schedule. It's pulling it all together and being able to just not compartmentalize sections of us. And I think that's what virtual does. It causes us to departmentalize how we approach things. Yet as a human being, we need to show up. I mean, everything emotionally, spiritually, mentally, physically, all of it, whether we choose to be an extrovert or an introvert. When we do that,
you're right. I've actually had people tell me that the ability to drive to an office and the transition from home to office and the transition back from the office to the house, as much as they may be in their car or their vehicle in the traffic for about an hour, it actually helps them disconnect and then connect back. When they're 100% virtual, most people, at least that I have encountered, are very conscientious. They want to do the right thing. They're always thinking about what else needs to be done for their work and their family at the same time. So it's all intertwined. And the ability to be able to say, you know what, today I really want to work from the office. Versus, oh my God, I've got to go to the office again, right, today as well. I think the ability to do a little bit of both and have the flexibility when it is required to come to the office, but it's not required to have the freedom to be at home and do their thing, I think is going to be invaluable. It's something we're doing both in India and in the US because we've got teams in both. We are going to do the same thing in both. The challenge is we now have a spread out team. The big positive of this pandemic and virtual environment is now those barriers of having to hire in a certain city are gone. You can hire anybody anywhere in the world as long as they're qualified. So how do you permeate your culture and how do you help them understand what it is? How do you help them see the vision and believe in things that are not yet there, like you do, and work for it. These are a little challenging. So bringing them in, having that conversation, letting them go, and then bringing them in when there's a discussion required, I think it's all good overall.
I have to tell you, I just noticed something that I didn't realize that I think you do often, and I don't want to ever deter you away from it. But when you're explaining something, you actually build a heart. And everything that you do comes from the heart. It really is. To know you, Sashank, is to know that the heart of what leads you as a business owner, as a human being, is it has to come from the heart. So I just thought that was pretty amazing. So I hope you'll continue to do that. Build it from the heart, right?
Now that you made me conscious, I don't know as much.
You have to do it, please. Don't ever stop doing it, but because it's from the heart. So, but now that I've kind of like
doing this more, I start.
No. But the fact that you just painted the picture that you can not only hire people anywhere in the world. Let's talk to the person who needs BOS Framework. Be specific, because you know who they are. You know who the audience is. So tell us, speak to the insiders, because if the insiders watching or listening, they're ready for you to elaborate on, even if they're in California or they're in China, wherever they might be. Talk to that person. Who is it? Who needs a BOS Framework today?
If you have a cloud initiative where you want to build something in the cloud, where you want to migrate to the cloud, or you have to fortify what you already have in the cloud, BOS is a solution that you want to at least look at. Because what BOS does is, we are a cloud enablement platform. We bring together cloud provisioning, cloud management, and cloud compliance into a single platform and make it all visible and available through a single interface. So that's what we do. Why do you need to look at BOS? You're probably looking at your experts. If you have them, you're going to speak with them. If you don't have them, you're going to be looking to hire somebody. There's a certain cost associated with it. There is a certain ambiguity that comes with the territory. And invariably, whether you're thinking about it today or not, security and compliance will become issues for you in the near future. So what we will help you with is reduce your costs right off the bat. We will help you build things right in the cloud. And because of the automation, you can almost eliminate the entire human error that is about 80% the reason why there are cyber breaches and problems in the cloud. And we do that at a fixed subscription cost, which makes everything very predictable and consistent for you. So if you're a business owner, especially if a growing business in the regulated industry, or a growing startup that is worried about your future problems, you are experiencing the problems associated with security, reliability, scalability, compliance, etc., but you're not large enough to hire those experts who are all very expensive and difficult to find, then BOS is probably a very strong alternative for you.
How do I reach you? Go to the website, call you on the phone?
Framework. Yeah, bosframework.com, bosframework.com, or you can find me on my LinkedIn. I'm pretty responsive. I don't want to share my phone number here.
I ask every guest this, may you live to be 300 years old and bless the world with the opportunity to know you, because I'm very fortunate to be someone that I hope that I can say is, your friend, and that my team has the honor to walk alongside you as you continue to absolutely make a difference in the world through businesses and through people's lives. But what's your legacy? How are you leaving your footprint in this world? How do you want to be remembered?
I don't think there is engineering in software. I want to be remembered as somebody that has made a change by bringing engineering into software. And when I say engineering, I mean end user impacting, predictable, way of doing things that has a certain methodology that's repeatable and that's dependable. It's not a build and fix approach. So I would like to bring engineering into software, and I'd love to have people think of me as somebody that did at least a small thing in that regard.
Wonderful. And being a mechanical engineer, was that by choice? Or is that we didn't talk about your family and why you went to school for it? A bit of your inside story?
My grandfather and my great grandfather were both engineers in Indian railways when they were in their prime. And my grandfather wanted all of his kids to be engineers. None of them turned out to be an engineer. Everybody did something different. So I think, no, I have to think real hard, but I think all of his grandkids are engineers now because of that. And I want to especially, call out I want to remember my uncle who's no more. He is somebody that has been a role model for me. He was a mechanical engineer. He was somebody that would travel frequently to around the world, to the US, to Russia when I was a kid. And I wanted to be like him. And he was a mechanical engineer. And I have a cousin who's the oldest member of our generation in our family. He's a mechanical engineer as well. So mechanical engineer, these two are my role models almost, aside from my dad, of course. My dad is my big role model. But these two are people that I want to be like in terms of being an engineer. So I took mechanical engineering for that reason. I have a family in India. My wife and daughter live in India. My parents live here. I live all by myself in the US. It has helped me focus on my work. It's been challenging. It's been very challenging to do it that way. But honestly, I think I enjoy being alone and being focused on my work and knowing that my family's taken care of and safe.
That's really beautiful. And the sacrifice, I feel like it's almost it's not the same, but it's close enough. A military family that for commitment and passion and mission separates some families while their, family members are out there serving and protecting us. I feel like in your own way that from the heart, you were representing your family, building something, and that the sacrifice. What would your wife and daughter say about you from the position of knowing that they have loved you from afar while you were growing your company? What do you think they would say if I were interviewing them today?
It has created distance between us, honestly. My daughter and I get along very well. I mean, very, very close. I think she'll tell you that I am a very responsible dad. I speak to her all the time, and I am very intently participating in her life and playing a role that I can. So I confided into her a couple of times, even more recently, like a few weeks back. When I came to India to visit with her, I told her that, baby, I'm not being a very good dad. I'm not taking care of you very well. And she is 16 years old, and she said, no, you're a great dad. I think I'm proud of you. And she said, she Googled my name. It was so funny. And then she found a few links and she said, none of my friends' dads have this. So, and she was clearly proud of me. So I was happy about that. Do I miss her? You betcha. I mean, every minute of my existence when I'm in the US. But knowing that I am providing for her, and she's going to be back in the US for after her 12th is done, hopefully for her bachelor's, for her undergrad. I think I'm doing the right thing. It is a sacrifice, but this particular mission that I'm on is very, very important to me. I give myself this solace, if you will, or this, self-talk that many, many people that did great things in their lives had to sacrifice some part of their personal lives. And I don't look at this as a sacrifice as much as a price that I have to pay to do what I really want to do, which is, like I said, BOS is a passion. It's a commitment. And I, somewhere in my, like in the back of my head, I feel that I'm meant to build something big, and I want to do it, and I want to do it completely. I don't want to leave it midway through. I'm honestly I've done less than what I really wanted to do at this time in my life, at this point in my life. So I've got to speed up, not slow down, and do a little bit more. I don't know, just candidly sharing. I don't know if.
I love it. Thank you for being vulnerable. And vulnerable is one of my favorite words at this point in my life, because I used to think it meant weakness. But as we know, vulnerability is really about the power of allowing yourself to be who you are. And just, and your daughter, mechanical engineering, is that her focus? She's
been threatening to do STEM. Okay, she's naturally gifted in arts. I've seen her. She writes brilliantly well. She composes. I think she's written and composed about 38 songs, and she sings quite well. She plays the guitar. She plays the piano. She is also very, very active when it comes to a public setting. She's a natural organizer. I don't know. We'll see. How kids are. She says STEM, but she might end up doing something else. But I don't care what she does. I just want her to be happy and successful in her life.
As I'm sure she wishes for you every day. So thank you for your commitment. Thank you for what you're doing for businesses, for people, the jobs you've created by being brave. A thank you to your wife, to the people that support and enable you to be present and doing the things that you're doing, because fortunate people like me get to know you. And by coming out and unveiling our inside stories that you've blessed us with today, I hope that the insiders will not only continue to watch and listen, don't forget to subscribe, click below. In the show notes, we'll have lots of ways for you to learn more about Sashank and BOS Framework. The website, of course, is listed throughout this interview, bosframework.com. And Sashank, just keep making a difference. Save people money, save time, but help those technologists to know that the business owners need them to keep them in mind, keep the outcome and the end user in mind, so that BOS Framework just is a bridge that's connecting all the moving pieces. So you're a brave, awesome serial entrepreneur, and thank you for being here today. Any closing thoughts?
Firstly, thank you for all of those kind words. Means a lot. Closing thoughts. Today's world, technology is probably the most relevant part of our lives, right? From a baby that's just born all the way to that 95-year-old man who wants to text with his great grandkids. Everybody uses technology. And that is being done in a very inefficient manner, and it's extremely expensive. And especially in this innovation economy where there are so many innovators and entrepreneurs that are trying to create a mark in this world, if technology were to be made more affordable, if it were to be made more reliable, and if people spent less time worrying about the problems associated with technology and actually leverage the creative aspects of technology, and if BOS can play a role in being that engineering foundation on which people can build their technology elements, then I think we'll all be very happy. How's that?
I love it. Beautiful. And I'll just say from the heart, thank you for being with us. And insiders, thanks again for watching and listening. And Sashank, keep making a difference in the world. Bye for now.
Thank you.